Coming up on the Fish Hunt Forever podcast, we figure we tracked it probably on foot about almost 8 miles.
Not difficult to drag him. He was pretty light, so he was not doing well.
St. Paul needs an enema.
I think I've shot bigger does than what it was now.
This is the Fish Hunt Forever podcast, formerly Sporting Journal Radio, presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. All right, what's going on? Welcome to the show. I'm Bret Amundson. That's Dan Amundson over there, and David Eckhart. Look who's back, Dan.
I'm here.
Can you believe it?
I can't believe it.
He finally shot a deer, so now he can actually come and
he
do some
thinks
work.
these are important.
Yeah. Well, hey, actually, I'm okay with that. This time of year, it's like all bets are off.
Really?
You try to get a hold of me, it's like I'm probably going to be hunting somewhere.
So you're fine if I just leave right now?
Well,
to
maybe,
go hunting.
Maybe not right now, but yeah, you were gone for like 9 days last week.
Still did the show.
Yeah, that's true. He's got a point, David.
True. I was just out hunting.
Yeah.
So was I.
Well, you shot a buck. I shot a buck with our muzzleloaders.
Yep.
Pretty neat. We got some stories about those we're going to break down because both of them have a storyline to them. I don't want to say they were necessarily unique stories, but there's a story to them. Ours was an adventure. Yours was yours was doing the right thing, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll tell those stories coming up in a little bit. I'm whipped, by the way. I'm very tired today. Dan and I did a lot of walking the last 2 days, and we'll explain why that is. And then we might have celebrated and stayed up a little late last night. It happens.
That'll happen.
We're going to talk deer. We're going to talk. We don't want to make this another CWD show since we've been kind of CWD heavy lately. But somebody commented on one of our reels on one of the social medias. I can't remember. And Travis Tothill last week was talking about how many positive CWD cases there were since his deer tested positive and what the DNR had told him at the time. And somebody's like, well, it should be pretty easy to find out those numbers. And obviously they've been changing as more test results come back, and we have got some of those numbers. As of this point, there's still some sampling and testing that needs to be done, but we'll tell you what those numbers look like for CWD positive test cases in Minnesota coming up a little bit. Dan, I can't wait to talk about this, the electronic licensing system in Minnesota. Exactly.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Yeah, that's right. We're waiting for it. We'll tell you what the latest update, thanks to Outdoor News for that story. We'll tell you about that coming up in just a little bit. But first, we should probably talk about who the sponsors this week are on the show, Dan.
Lake of the Woods Tourism. Lake of the Woods is the walleye capital of the world. Plan an ice fishing trip to Lake of the Woods at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. On X, hunt, see private land boundaries, offline maps, and more. Take 20% off, or maybe track a deer with it. Take 20% off a new membership with code SGR20. Haybell Heights Campground and Resort. Fish Devil's Lake out of a snow bear this winter at Haybell Heights. Learn more at haybellheights.com. Tasman Lake Lodge. Catch world record lake trout and giant pike at Saskatchewan's Tasman Lake. Learn more at tasmanlake.com. Prairie Sportsman, new season is coming pretty soon. You can watch episodes anytime at the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel. And Space Trailers. Brett, tell me about a Space Trailer.
Well, how about I do that because they are the sponsor for Headlines right now.
Oh, God, Kate.
Headlines. All right. Nice job, Dan.
Thanks.
Space Trailers. I have the green High Rider. It's got all-terrain tires. It's a 600-pound trailer. So the idea behind these utility trailers is to be able to haul things like ATVs and equipment, but also small enough that it's easy to maneuver with, easy to pull behind your ATV or side-by-side, and then small enough that you can store in a small space. You can actually tip it up and store it in the back of your garage. So if your garage is full of a couple of vehicles now, maybe a side-by-side or something like that, you don't have a lot of room for your trailer, but you want to store it in there, you can do that. Mine is a 600-pound trailer. It can haul 1,000 pounds. It also has space bars on top. Those can haul 225 pounds of gear up there. There's 8 different color options, 3 different wheel and tire options, and they're out of Red Wing, Minnesota. So this is a Minnesota-based trailer company. Find out more at spacetrailers.com. All right, I wanted to talk about this elk story real quick before we get into deer and CWD stuff, because there's a couple emails going around. I get emails from the DNR and some people about elk in Minnesota, because we've been documenting the story of trying to introduce or reintroduce elk to northeastern Minnesota. trying to grow the herd in Northwest, which just isn't going to happen. So they want to move some and put some in the Northeast, but then you have CWD transport restrictions, so you can't bring in elk from outside of state. So they're formulating a plan. There's a couple $1 million in there for getting it started right now. I was kind of hoping we'd start to see some elk in the Northeast already. I think that was kind of their plan, sometime maybe this year or next year, and then hopefully in about 30 years maybe have a hunting season on them if we're lucky. Hasn't started yet, but somebody claims they heard people talking about what the DNR were going to do, and they were going to artificially inseminate some cows. They were going to do all kinds of different things. So Blaine Klemick put out a message saying, hey, I just want to clarify a few things. So what's going on with some elk is they're planning to capture and place GPS collars on 40 elk in northwest Minnesota this winter. They will not be moved in 2026 for elk restoration purposes, but will be released where they were captured. There'll be a transmitter implanted in cows that are pregnant. The transmitter alerts researchers to when a cow gives birth, allowing them to quickly locate newborn calves. Up to 25 calves this spring will then be fitted with a GPS collar to monitor their survival and access what habitat types they're using. And of course, last year there were four elk tags given out to state hunters. So they're going to research what these elk are doing, where they're going, what the calves are doing, what their survival rate is, just try to find out a little bit more about that, because once they have those herds at a certain population goal, they can remove some of them to move them over to the Northeast, which is what their ultimate plan is going to be. And I think this is just a good time to say that they did issue 4 tags for elk. We have, approximately 200 or so in Minnesota, yet we have 4,000 moose. And no moose tags? I just thought that'd be a good time to point that out right there. I'd like to see some moose hunting. All right, so CWD. It's always a fun topic to talk about, right, guys? You guys like talking about chronic wasting disease, right? So someone asked in the comments about how many positive tests
I love it!
So I went down.
Trump loves it.
You can actually look this up on the DNR website. They have I don't know if you want to use the word interactive, but they have a graphic there that's constantly being updated as more research and more stats come in, so they can keep you updated. I don't know if it's in real time, but it's pretty close. I think it's updated quite regularly. There were 97 positive cases in Minnesota for chronic wasting disease this year out of about 13,000 tests. So I think it was just under 13,000 tests. Last year, for an example, there were 96 positive cases. The year before that, there were 63. So the number has increased, yet the amount of tests have come down. So I immediately was like, well, there's probably more testing going on. That's why we're getting more positives. But the numbers have actually been going down. So the majority of this year's positive test cases, 97, were in zones 646, 47, 48, and 49. Now, those are the 4 zones in the far southeast part of the state. So that's 89 of the 97. So all but 8 positive cases were down in that far part of the southeastern part of the state. There are still about 100 tests pending. And so there you go. It's just under 13% positive in the test results, but most of them down in the southeast. Since 2010, you guys want to guess how many deer have tested positive in Minnesota since 2010?
6.
Yes, that's right. Correct.
Knew it.
So that's 15 years of testing. We had 97 this year.
500.
473. Look at you, David.
That was a quick guess.
I'm kind of impressed, actually. The rest of the year, there is a CWD management hunt coming up that deer hunters can participate in December 19th through the 21st. CWD testing is voluntary during that time.
I don't get that.
So the reason for it, Dan...
I know the reasoning for it, but it still doesn't make sense to me. I know the reasoning is because they...
Let's just move on.
But hang on. I mean, think about this for a second. The reason they're not testing is because they hit their quota during the gun season.
Right.
So then why are we hunting? Just to eradicate the herd when we don't know we know some of it's down there, but why don't we keep testing this to get more data?
Because the way their research works, they're looking for like a percentage, and they have hit with the extrapolation of how many deer were tested versus the overall population, they've hit a certain threshold that the amount of deer that'll get killed in this in their thoughts, the amount of deer that'll get killed won't change that number at all because the percentages will remain constant. So if it's 13% or whatever the number is, they expect that 13%. But I agree with you.
Sure, but I guess we're gonna do a CWD hunt for CWD. Why don't we get more data on CWD? When's the last time having more data hurt something?
So I will, and I'm not gonna. I don't want to. I mean, I will defend the DNR maybe a little bit here. They're not going to staff any CWD testing facilities. So in a sense, they're saving money when the biggest complaint people have about the fight against CWD is millions of dollars being spent on research. They're going to not spend money to staff people for this when they don't think that the results will change the data that they have. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know. It just still seems weird to me that let's have a CWD hunt for CWD, but we're not even going to know if the deer we're shooting have CWD.
But they just expect, because they've done enough testing, they expect that 13% or whatever those deer probably have it. And they're going to reduce they want to reduce those deer numbers anyway. And they're doing it with hunters and not sharpshooters. They're not culling any deer. They don't have specialists coming in to shoot it. So it's giving people a chance to hunt. It's giving them the goal of reducing deer in those areas, those hotspot areas. And then they don't think. And I mean, you can still go get your stuff tested. They have mail-in kits. And then there still are some restrictions. There's a carcass movement restriction remaining in effect for all the DPAs included in the late CWD hunt. Hunters who want to bring meat out of the zone immediately will need to quarter their deer first. However, the head with neck and hide attached can go directly to a Minnesota licensed taxidermist outside the CWD zone. Hunters will need to wait until a not detected test result is received to remove a whole carcass from the zone. They open things up to encourage participation in the hunt. There's flexibility in the licenses and permits that are valid. Disease management permits may be used to tag both antlered and antlerless deer. Bonus permits and early antlerless tags can only be used to tag antlerless. So if you get one of these disease management permits, you can shoot whatever. The bag limit is 5 deer, which includes both antlerless and legal bucks during this late CWD hunt. And the statewide bag limits for antlerless or legal bucks do not apply during this hunt. Although the bag limit is 5, 97% of successful hunters during this hunt only took 1 or 2 deer last year. So right away you might go, man, they're letting them shoot 5 deer. They're going to wipe out all these deer. And they could, I guess, if they shoot all 5, but it sounds like they only shot 1 or 2 during that hunt.
So the hunt's not really doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Well, I mean, it's taking out more deer.
Extra deer that people wouldn't have normally shot.
So there is to find out more about that late CWD hunt, where it is and all of that stuff, make sure you go to the DNR website. David, I want to hear about your buck, because you shot a buck with your muzzleloader the other day.
Same day as yours.
Yeah. And you know what? I thought was interesting about that. And our buddy Tony made that comment, like, didn't you say in our group that today was going to be the day?
Mm-hmm.
I had a feeling pre-storm, and we'd both been hunting pretty hard.
Yeah.
You were out there I hunted pretty hard, but you were probably out there more days than I was. I want to tell those stories about our muzzleloader bucks and what was unique about them. It was an adventure. We'll do that when we come back. It doesn't get much better than fresh perch and fresh walleye. If you're looking for an exciting winter fishing destination, come to Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Haybale Heights Campground and Resort is on the ice with a fleet of snow bears, keeping you mobile and warm so you can stay on the roaming schools of fish. Haybale Heights on the east end of Devil's Lake has knowledgeable guides, comfortable cabins, and their own lake access, making your trip as successful and stress-free as possible. To book your trip, go to haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. All right, we're back on the show. Still deer hunting season for a lot of people. Dan, you're still bow hunting.
Yep.
I might try to go down to a bonus zone with the bow, and I would like one more deer for the freezer maybe, but feeling pretty good. I got more meat in the freezer. I shot a buck with my muzzleloader. David, you shot a buck with your muzzleloader, but you don't have more meat for the freezer.
I do not. It was pretty sick and had a nasty infection, so unfortunately not going to risk it eating any of that infected meat.
So let's talk about that and the decision to shoot it, which I think was the right one. And I applaud you for that, because we all really like to eat venison around here. So that's a tough decision to make when you shoot a deer to help it. You're helping it out. Really.
Yeah.
You're helping it out. But let's just start with, like, how many days did you sit, you think, this year?
Oh, this year?
Or whatever, the muzzleloader hunt?
I hunted 9 days in a row for muzzleloader.
Oh, is that all? Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, I missed the opening day of muzzleloader, but then every day since then I hunted. But total, it's been 34 days with 42 sits in 2 states.
For the entire season?
For deer hunting, yeah.
Okay. And you did shoot a deer in South Dakota.
Yep.
Shot a nice buck over there.
Yep.
And then you shot this one, like, you messaged us. You knew about a deer that was around, and you said, and I don't remember hearing about it before. Maybe you mentioned it before. I didn't remember it, but you said that limpy 10-pointer is out there.
Yeah. Well, when I first saw it, I saw it limping, across the CRP into the food plot, 10 minutes before shooting light ended. And I thought it looked like a 10-point. And then later that night, I had a picture of a 10-point on my camera. So I thought it was that one, but it ended up being an 8-point. And my buddy's girlfriend, 3/4 of a mile away during slug season, had shot an 8-point that they never found. So I'm assuming it's the same buck. It was 3/4 of a mile. That's the direction it ran. And they never did find it. Well, it turns out it only had a broken leg. But so he made it another month.
Wow.
And I'd seen him 4 or 5 days before I shot him. And so I was like, well, I should probably shoot that one. He looks pretty tough shape.
Yeah, he was pretty lean, wasn't he?
Yeah. I drug him through the snow.
You drugged him first?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's legal.
After I shot him.
Okay.
I drug him through the snow
with what?
150 yards.
Did you try to give him Narcan or something?
Yeah, I tried to revive him.
Yeah.
Some antibiotics. But drug him to the truck before I gutted him. It was not difficult to drag him. He was pretty light, so he was not doing well.
That's one of the unfortunate circumstances that can happen, especially with during the slug season, I think. Wounding deer, you never want to see it, you never want to do it. So when you come across an animal like that that's wounded, obviously not doing well, I mean, it is a nice rack, like is a nice buck. So I'm sure the decision wasn't too hard, because you'll have a nice, you're doing a Euro mount with it, you'll have that. But obviously, I hate not being able to get deer meat from my deer too,
right? Which
will be part of my story that I'll tell in just a second. So the fact that you made the decision to end that buck's misery, it's great.
And that leg stunk, like it was oozing infection stuff out of it, and
gross.
When I took the picture, I accidentally leaned on it, and I was like, it's on my pants now.
Throw your pants away.
No, I washed them. They're good now. But, yeah, it was.
Because you originally, you were processing it like you were going to eat it. You wanted to open it up and take a look at it.
I hung it up, and I was like, I got to get this shoulder off of it, and cut that shoulder off, and it was all infected in the ribs and underneath. And even after I took the leg off, the body stunk, where I had opened it up. So I was like, ugh. Talked to a few people, and they were like, I don't think I'd risk it.
Gosh, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
I hate it. Especially that deer, when healthy, was probably a good sized deer.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a lot of meat there.
Yeah. Yeah. Early November, that thing was over 200 pounds probably, but I think I've shot bigger does than what it was now.
Wow.
You could fit your hand around the back of its neck and touch both sides, and that shoulder was all shriveled to nothing when I cut it off.
Dang. Where's brows broke off, or were they just short?
They were short. Ones broke off a little bit, but they were kind of short anyway.
That's a cool deer. He's an 8. That's a nice. It's a nice 8-pointer.
Yeah, nice 8-point.
Too bad the brows weren't bigger, but when it comes to antlers anyway, it's a nice buck. Well, you got a deer in the freezer already too.
Yep.
So
I got one, and it's a bonus zone, so I can still shoot a couple more does down there if I want to.
Dan, those brow tines almost look like the brows on your deer a little bit.
Yeah. My back straps are going to taste a heck of a lot better. So who's winning?
So I shot a deer same day, and I think we had the storm coming in. I don't know, both of you and I had been sitting and we'd both been starting to see deer a little bit. I had a buck in my scope 2 nights before for 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes of legal shooting time. And he came in and the shot was straight on. Like he came walking right at me and it's like 100 yards with the muzzleloader. I didn't want to take that straight on shot. So, and I was just waiting and he came into a corn food plot, standing corn. So then he kind of gets into the corn, you lose him. And then I was waiting for him to turn left broadside and he never did. And all of a sudden I caught sight of him again and he was standing 30 yards in front of me straight away, standing, facing straight away. I didn't want to take that shot, obviously. And he's just sitting there munching on a cob of corn. I'm just watching his rack kind of bounce around in the standing corn like this. And I just sat there looking at the back of his neck like, I mean, I've taken neck shots before, but I didn't want to ruin any meat. I didn't want to have a long tracking process, which we'll get to that here in a second. I wanted a safe, ethical shot, and he just never gave it to me. And I just watched my phone click through past the legal shooting time, and I just kind of sat there for a minute and watched him until it got a little bit darker, and then snuck out. And hopefully, I was hoping I didn't bust him off. So I knew that buck was around, and then 2 days later, I'm hunting there again, and just about 10 minutes before legal shooting time ended, 3 does just came running in circles. I was like, what is happening right now? They're going in every direction, and here that buck came charging in right after him. So he was chasing those does hard, probably one of them real hard, but it was just chaos. All of a sudden there's deer running around all over in front of me, and then they're kind of running around me, and that buck, which I thought it was a different buck from 2 nights before, but the more I think about it, it might have been the same one. But I thought it was the same one that I'd seen the night before, which was a decent deer. And he stopped straight downwind of me and then stared at me. So now I got a decision, and he's quartering to me. So basically now the shot, once again, is almost a straight on brisket shot, which I've never taken one of those. I've never wanted to take one of those. And when I passed up on it 2 nights ago, I had a couple of people like, I would take that shot with the muzzleloader. And I was like, and he's standing there. The season's getting later. It's a nice buck. It's a big deer. It's cold. Like, do I want to try to take this deer and punch my tag and start pheasant hunting, since I've severely neglected the pheasants in my life? And my dog is mad at me for that. So I look at him, and I bet he stood there staring at me for a minute. And I'm like, all right, I think I have to take the shot now. So I put it on his chest, and I pulled the trigger. And of course that muzzleloader kicks, the smoke fills the air. And now I got does running in circles again in front of me. So I can't tell if he went down, because your deer, when you shot him, just dropped.
Yep.
But you shot him in the spine.
Yeah. I hit a little high. It was open sights at 100 yards.
Oh, you didn't have a scope on that?
No, Dad took his nice muzzleloader back because he got drawn for South Dakota tag. So I had to go back to the old CVA that's 20 years old.
Okay.
And I wasn't going to mount a scope on it for one season. I thought I could take the scope off the other one, but I would have had to take the rear sight off. And I was like, I'm not going to mess with it for this year. So
how are the back straps? Well, you didn't eat the deer anyway.
I didn't investigate, but it pretty much exploded the spine. So there would have been some of it you would have had to cut out, but it wouldn't have been too bad.
So I shoot this deer and I give it a couple of minutes. Dan is out hunting too. And so I'm going to wait a few minutes, and I look over there, and I feel like I can see him laying on the ground. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to walk over there, take a quick peek, see if he's laying there, see if there's blood. And I get up to it. He's not there. There's fresh tracks going in every direction, of course, because it was a circus. And I don't see any blood. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to back out. I'm going to wait for Dan to get home. We'll give it a few minutes, and then we'll start tracking. And we start tracking, and Dan finds blood. Sometimes seeing red is a little tough for me, so I like having, somebody that can see red colors better than I can. I have a little bit of color blindness. But so Dan finds blood just a few feet from where I'd stopped looking. Like, he didn't bleed where I hit him, I don't think. I think he took a couple of steps before he started to bleed. And then we started tracking, and we made it. I'd have to look, Dan, but we made it not too far, and he'd laid down, right? If I remember right.
Yep.
First bed was pretty close.
Pretty quick, right through the trees.
And I was like, oh. And I kind of looked at Dan. I was like, gosh, I don't know, maybe we should back out of here. We had a storm coming the next morning, and coyotes are already howling not far away. I'm like, the last thing I want to do is get this track covered up by snow and have coyotes eat that deer. So we're seeing blood, and there's blood in that bed. So we start tracking them some more, and it's like during the entire tracking process, there was pretty good blood. Aside, there's a few spots where there was just a couple of drops here and there, but for the most part, there was steady blood the entire track. But yeah, there's one.
That was a pepper flake.
Yeah, there's a couple spots.
There were some spots where there was, I don't know, there was blood the whole way. I'm not sure I'd call it good blood.
Well, to me, if you don't dry up for 50 yards, it's good blood. And for the most part, we had at least a drop. And if we didn't, we just made a quick radius, look for fresh tracks. Like it was, without that snow, this would have been a losing proposition.
And that's, I guess, my argument for saying I wouldn't consider it good blood, right? Like the snow exaggerates it a little bit. It wasn't a heavy bleed. It was a consistent bleed, but it wasn't a heavy bleed.
Which tracking consistency it makes it good in my part. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Like it wasn't like huge spots. Like he wasn't just gushing as he went. It was, but it was consistent, which helped us considerably. And we tracked a little bit more. I think we found one more bed with some blood in it. And I was like, all right, we need to think about getting out of here. But there was a property boundary coming up. And I wanted to try to see if he made it off the property, because if we're going to have to search in the snow the next day in this blizzard that we were supposed to get the next day, I wanted to have a better ballpark of where this deer was. So we tracked it, and it went across the property line. And I was like, I talked to that property owner, I know the laws about it, but I talked to the property owner, got permission to go track, and I'm like, I'm going to track him there. And we ended up just keep following him. And I don't know if we were actually bumping him or if he was running. And he was running with some other deer. And again, I probably would have backed out after that second bed maybe. But because of the storm coming, I did not want to lose this deer. I did not want to lose it to coyotes. I wanted to find it. And so we tracked him. We backed out. We did back out for 2 hours. After that second bed, that's right. That second bed, we backed out for about 2 hours, tried to give him some time to lay down, stiffen up, then went back out there and tracked him we probably tracked him about 4 hours. I think my Onyx tracker, so I set a track as soon as we started, and this is the next day, but I set a track when we started, and we went about 4 hours and about 5 miles tracking this deer. Then we backed out. Because I said, all right, we need to just back out and get up early the next day. So next morning we got up and we tracked it again, another 3 miles. We spent almost 4 hours on this track if you're watching this track right here, and I'm going to have you replay it, Dan, but you can run a tracking feature on your Onyx app, and then you can mark waypoints where you find blood. So that'll help you. So if you do have a track that dries up, you can bounce back to where you said, yeah, back in the day, we used to drop our hats in those spots. I don't know. Now you can just mark it on Onyx. And so this is interesting where that little loop-de-loop was there. This is a key part of this track. Because we tracked this deer through our buddy's yard next to his trampoline. So Dan's tracking the blood trail next to the trampoline. And then our buddy Tony messaged us and said, hey, I got to drop the kids off. After that, I can come help you track. I'm like, perfect. Just stay in your truck, drive around the section, and see if we kick this deer out, because we're not sure if it's still alive or not. So we track them up and around again, and we're going around, and we got into some real heavy cattails, and all of a sudden Dan and I both heard commotion, and we look up, and here comes this rack bouncing up out of the cattails. I had about a 3-second window to put my gun on him and try to shoot a jumping deer running away from me. It didn't take the shot. And I looked at Dan, I said, let's just go up there, see if that bed is bloody, make sure that that's the deer that we're after, and sure enough, there was a bed. So we don't know if that deer laid there overnight or when he got there. So we pushed him towards one of the roads. So Tony was in his truck watching, and he got out and started kind of walking towards us to try to cut that deer off. And sure enough, that deer poked its head out in front of Tony. He took a shot at it and turned it right around. And that was a key part of this because he kept him on this property and pushed that deer back towards us. The one tricky part, though, is he doubled back on the trail we were tracking him out on. So all of a sudden we're like, you got blood there? Nope. You got blood there? No. All right, let's go back on the trail he came in on. And sure enough, he took that for a little bit and then veered off of it. And then, it's probably another, I don't know how much longer after that, Dan, maybe a half hour or so, 45 minutes. We found him. We got into some real heavy cattail cover again, which I figured once we got close to the slough, he was going to try to find a thick spot to lay down and hide in. And I'm watching the blood. And I'm going through these cattails, and all of a sudden I just look up, and like 3 feet in front of me, I see brown hair, and he was laying there in front of me.
Oh.
And still alive. And I can just see this rack looking behind him, so he was tired. Like,
yeah.
He was like, I've accepted my fate. and then I backed up a little bit. I ended up shooting him in the neck right there, and put it right in the middle of his neck. And that did the trick right there. And then we had to drag him out. And what was your question about dragging out?
How did you get it out of there?
Oh, yeah.
Because it was like the middle of the section.
So Tony we were able to drive in fairly close to it, and with his pickup. And then I forgot my deer. I got one of those harness deer drag apparatuses, left it in the truck.
Of course.
I've got a knife that I sharpened up the night before in my truck. So Dan had his buck knife that we used, and so appreciate that. Appreciate the help, Dan, tracking. Appreciate the help from the landowners, and of course for Tony for doing that. And then we had this old trick we used to drag deer out with, and I'd forgotten all about it because I hadn't done this in a long time. And Dan's like, "Hey, I got a rope," and he tied the rope around, put the legs up behind the antlers like this, tie the rope around it, and then wrap the rope around a stick, and then pull that stick behind you. I don't know if probably don't have that picture easily accessible, but that helped. We dragged it out of the cattail slough like that and took a couple turns dragging it through the thick stuff, and threw it in the back of the truck, and now it's hanging in the garage.
That's almost easier dragging them that way than a sled, especially in cattails. Those sleds hang up.
Yeah. Well, and this at times we just grabbed, like that antler's got a little bit of palmation, like both sides have if you're watching this, you can see the picture, a little bit of palmation. I was able to actually run my wrist through the rack, and you could grab it and drag them pretty easily. Like it was a perfect handle. The rack was great. I've dragged a lot of bucks by the rack like that, and that actually worked out pretty well too. But the stick idea is kind of a neat one to go. So looking at the deer, I shot it right where I was aiming, right in the brisket. And what ended up happening, I think, was the shot ended up being maybe a little low. So maybe there's a little bullet drop or something, or maybe I just hit lower than what I was aiming for. And we figure it bled. There's a good hole right in the middle of the chest, but we figure we missed vital because thinking back to it, he was maybe quartering towards me just a little bit, and I think the bullet just missed vitals somehow, but it was bleeding the entire time.
Yeah.
And I probably won't take that shot ever again.
I think if the deer is straight on, head on, it's not a bad shot. But as soon as you add that angle, you leave yourself with a whole, little room for error on that. And like you said, you put the bullet where you want it to. It just, with the angle that the animal's at and the angle the guts are at, that's not a great shot. Because straight on with a neck shot, you're either going to miss, or you're going to punch it straight through the guts or the spine or something usually. So it's not a terrible shot straight on, but you got to make sure it is straight on.
It's just a small window.
Right.
Like that's your own, it's a small target. And I thought he was standing more straight on than he was, which was the problem. I definitely thought it was more of a straight on shot than it was. But hey, we did what we had to do. We didn't let a wounded deer get away from us. We tracked it down. Put in the work. I think we figure we tracked it probably on foot about almost 8 miles probably is what we did over 2 days. Probably about 8. I think the little message I put together for social media was 8 miles, 8 hours, 8 points, venison heart. We ate afterwards to celebrate. So it was a heck of a deal. And so this brings up a question that I wanted to ask you guys. Would you rather, if these were your two choices, would you rather shoot a deer in the spine and ruin the back straps, but not have to track it, or track it, maybe not 8 miles, but have to track it with a shot that doesn't ruin any meat. Because that's the one benefit. Like, we worked pretty hard for this deer, and it's a decent rack, but we didn't, like, all the meat is perfect. Like,
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. So what would you guys rather do?
I'd rather shoot it in the heart, I guess, but
That's not an option. You can't,
There's two options in this game, David.
One of my biggest pet peeves in life is when someone throws out a hypothetical for fun with two options, and some idiot just goes, well, I'd rather do this. That's
We all would, David.
my gosh.
spine for sure.
Can I ask a follow-up question for clarity?
Sure.
I wasn't talking to you, David, but thanks.
You asked, I answered.
Am I guaranteed recovery on this track?
That's a good question.
Because the one thing about spining it, you got
always
that
get
deer.
it. Yeah.
And a deer in hand is better than no deer in hand, even if a little bit. Like, nothing disappoints me more than when I pull the hide back and look at a chunk of meat and go, crap.
Right.
But the only thing that does disappoint me more than that
Losing it
is when I pull the trigger and watch the deer run away and go, crap, and you never get it.
Right.
So I would take the deer in hand, but if I'm guaranteed recovery, I do enjoy tracking deer to a certain extent. So there's part of it that's fun. Now, yesterday and the day before, not that much fun.
And it is more fun in the snow because it's just so much
tracking
easier.
in the snow is great. Truthfully, we had never found this deer.
No.
We just struggled to find first blood. I mean, it was just a small spray that I saw in the snow that I was like, oh man, this deer only went 30 yards. It wasn't a great spray, like a typical lung shot, but so it was just, little drops. That would have been pretty tough to see on grass and leaves. And you saw the picture of the fleck that I put up there. Mm-hmm. You don't see that in grass, especially in the dark like we did. So yeah, it's fun, but I don't know. I'd rather have the deer in hand.
Well,
and a little less suffering for the critter too.
Literally, the situation I was running through my head the 2 nights before, like, do I shoot this deer and risk, ruining backstraps? Because I'd basically have to spine it or shoot it in the neck from that first night. And I passed on it because I was just hoping for a broadside shot. Yeah, honestly, right. I wasn't thinking about a brisket shot at that point. But when I didn't get it the second time, and I didn't know if I'd get another opportunity really to fill this tag, I decided the risk was worth it and took that brisket shot. But
let me also follow this up with saying I'm probably never going to purposely put my crosshairs on the spine of a deer. Right? No. Like I'm never going to purposely say, well, I don't want to track this, kapow, right in the spine. Yeah. That's not going to be a thing. But in hindsight, there was a couple of moments the last day and the night before that I was like, I kind of wish that bullet went through the spine there, Bret.
Yeah, Dan was a trooper, and his dad, he and I tracked a lot of deer over the years, and his dad, again, I'll preface this by saying nobody wants to have to track a deer, but he loves it. Like once you know that there's tracking, and sometimes it's only a 40-yard track, and you're still looking for drops of blood on a brown leaf or something, or sometimes it's tough before the snow. He really prides himself on being good at it. So as we were doing it the other night, I said it to Dan 3 or 4 times, like, this sucks, man. Like I'd rather be at home, but at the same time, it's like solving that puzzle is an adventure. And especially when we're successful at it and the meat's fine, coyotes didn't get to it, we didn't risk leaving a wounded deer out there. It made it that much more enjoyable. But it's an adventure, man.
Yeah,
like looking for sign.
Deer.
Yeah,
it's really satisfying when you look up, find the first few drops of blood and. I ask the question, where do you aim, this and that, and when you can kind of look at the first 10 yards and go, okay, I think we got this. I think this is where that bullet went, and then you find the deer and you're like, I was right. Yeah, that's a pretty cool feeling too.
I did track a brisket shot one, probably 8 years ago. A buddy of mine hit one in the brisket with an arrow, and he called me and told me he shot it. We didn't know where he had hit it. I was like, all right, yeah. He was a couple miles away from my house. I'll come help you track it. So we tracked blood, and it got into some standing corn because it was early in the fall. And I'm just tracking, and there was good blood. I was tracking it down this row of corn, and I look up, and that buck jumped up and ran across the highway and across a plowed cornfield. And it went, and we followed it another half a mile probably. All right, yep. And then talk about trying hard finding blood in a plowed cornfield.
Yeah,
But
black
I
dirt.
just
Done that
kept
before.
on it
Yeah.
and crossed the fence line, and he'd pretty much given up. And I was like, well, here's like you said,
Speck.
a pepper flake on
Yeah.
a corn leaf. He's like, how did you even see that? I was like, well, you can kind of see tracks from it running in that soft dirt. And I think it's going east, and I had to get back to work, so
You're a farmer.
he ended up going around.
You had to go back to
Zing.
I
work.
had to go start combining, and he ended up waiting a few hours and then going around. There was a tree line on that fence line from the other side of the section, and walked that in, and ended up jumping that deer. And it jumped up on the other side through some weeds, but he could see it, and
He's
it
able
just
to shoot
stood
it.
there. And that thing, he said there was almost no blood left in it.
Oh, wow.
So it wouldn't have made it very long anyway, but he was able to get another arrow in it and finish it off.
It was pretty wild when I was gutting that deer the other day, and you get in there and you, this might be a little graphic, but when you
This is a hunting podcast. We're fine.
we cut the windpipe, and then I use that as a handle to pull all the guts out. When I cut that open, man, the amount of blood that was like still pumping through there.
Yeah.
Like it was, he was bleeding pretty slowly.
Yeah.
But his sternum was kind of blown apart here. Like he was
hurting.
He was hurting real bad. And when we backed out the first time, after seeing that second bed, and we backed out and gave him a couple hours, I was Googling it, and I'm like, brisket shots. And the first thing I read was like, give a brisket shot 8 to 10 hours. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh no. Because it was supposed to start snowing right away in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was, now it was 8 o'clock or whatever it was. And I was like, I do not want to give this deer time to run a couple miles or whatever it might be and have all the tracks get covered in snow.
Yeah.
So he pushed it more than I wanted to, but
That helped it bleed though. It bled most
Yeah.
when it was pushing hard, so that helped. And it's kind of interesting. I was doing some research that night while we were waiting there. I think it was a Meat Eater article, and I was reading kind of about a deer and blood and whatnot. And they figure that a deer has, what they say, an ounce of blood for about every pound of body weight. It's like 160 pound whitetail. They figured like a gallon of blood or over a gallon of blood. And so kind of the same thing, if hunters will get on this trail and they'll think they have a really good blood trail, like, oh gosh, he's bleeding good, even though if I didn't hit a vital, he's going to run out of blood at some point. And the article, I can't remember, it might have been Tony Peterson that wrote, whatever, doesn't matter, said, imagine yourself with a milk carton full of blood, and as you're walking that trail, you're pouring out a drop or whatever, and think of how long it would take you to get rid of that gallon. And the follow-up was, well, a deer doesn't have to lose all of its blood to die. And they said that when the average human gives blood, that you give about 8% of your total blood and you don't feel a difference. So it's kind of wild what not only the human body, but especially a whitetail body can endure. Their will to survive is crazy.
They are incredibly tough.
Oh my
Tough
gosh,
critters.
it is. And so, I mean, this thing was it had a lot of blood to go before it was going to bleed out. I think it was just simply exhausted. Between having to run, it probably got a worse night of sleep than you did, Brett. And
yeah, I didn't sleep well at all.
and between having to run and bleeding, you're just going to lose a lot of energy. So I think that's why we caught up to it. But it's just kind of interesting to learn these little nuances of getting on a blood trail and tracking deer and what exactly they actually can endure and will fight through.
That's only the second deer I've had to leave overnight in my
Yeah.
life. And the first time I didn't feel good about it either. It was a doe I'd shot with a bow. But man, that night after shooting this buck, just thinking about that storm coming and losing a deer, and I was gonna punch my tag, whether we found that deer or not. I was gonna punch it, so I was gonna lose out on all the meat in the freezer. It was miserable. I was not happy about it.
Yeah, it's never fun.
Man, all right. That went on longer. We just real quick, David. You're doing your own Euro mount.
Yep,
Which,
I already boiled it.
yeah, you did it quick. Like I've started to dabble in that, and I haven't finished one yet.
Well, it's because he's a farmer. He didn't have to go to work.
I had to change my oil on my truck last night, so I was like, oh, let's get the pot going.
So there were two things that I wanted to point out that you did that I have not done yet, and one was you don't crank it up all the way,
No.
heat wise.
The bone gets kind of soft if you boil it too hot, so I kept it between 180 and 200.
Okay.
Then the water doesn't evaporate.
That was
as
the problem I
fast
was
either.
having. Yeah.
Yep.
The other problem I was trying to do it in the winter when it was I was doing it outside in the driveway when it was 0.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get the water hot. So, and then you have like a piece of tin that you put over the top too.
Yeah, just to keep the rack propped up so that the back of the head isn't out of the water. So I'll put a piece of tin, and sometimes, depending on the size of the rack or the shape, I'll put a 2x4 chunk under it to keep the head submerged.
Yeah, I mean, with the pot, that looks like the same pot that I had. Were you able to get the entire head inside of it and in the water? Okay.
Yep.
As long as
the water's, when you got maybe an inch over the skull, it's maybe an inch below the rim of the pot.
And if it's not cranked up so high, you won't lose that. And okay. And then do you bleach it? Do you put something on, or do you pressure wash it all? Or
I pressure wash them after get all the brains out, but obviously it's below freezing, so I'm not going to take the pressure washer out. So it's the one on the bottom, and the one on the left there's my South Dakota buck from this year. The other ones are from
gosh, look at that brow tine.
22. So I just haven't bleached them yet to bring them in the house, and my wife probably likes them better out in the barn anyway. But so no, I plan on bleaching them and getting them cleaned up more.
Well, congrats on your 2 deer this year. Congrats to you
on yours.
Yeah, thank you. Congrats for taking out the one that was wounded. Unfortunate you lose the meat, but that's nice that you did that for that deer. One last thing too, before we get to Joe Henry and Jason Groll, by the way, are going to join us to talk about Lake of the Woods here in just a second. I want to mention an update. This is from Outdoor News. The Office of the Legislative Auditor is working on a report related to the DNR's electronic licensing system that it expects to release this winter, almost a year after they missed the target rollout date of March of 2025.
And only like 10 years after Wisconsin and every other state and province. I know not everybody is on board with that. I've heard Montana has a kind of a shoddy licensing system, but I mean, this is getting ridiculous. We could go on and have 4 other podcasts about the affairs going on in St. Paul and the Minnesota government, but St. Paul needs an enema. Sorry, not sorry.
Oh man, well, it's like the amount of money that our government, the state government takes. I know the DNR doesn't always get as much funding as they probably need, but the amount of money that the state government gets through taxes and whatever in the state of Minnesota, and let's not even get into, the fraud stuff that's going on, but there's plenty of money. And remember when MNLARS came out, the driver's license software, that got delayed and backed up a year or two too. So I don't know what's going on. If we're not hiring the right people, if the staff is not big enough, maybe the staff is too big. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. I mean, government usually has a few extra people on projects that don't need to be there.
And I will also add that since we were talking about CWD, I did the South Dakota deer in South Dakota at my dad's, so the brain was removed before I brought it into the state.
The electronic licensing system will be the location for hunters, anglers, and trappers to purchase various licenses. Additionally, Minnesotans may register outdoor rec vehicles and register or title watercraft too through this, so it'll be nice once this thing is done.
Hopefully. According to the DNR report, the current ELS processed 2.3 million various license transactions this year. So, I mean, there's a lot going on. I understand it's a big project to make something like this, but... And I appreciate them, I guess, taking the time to get it right, but, I mean, they've had a decade to get it right. Yeah. So go to Hudson and say, hey, Wisconsin, what do you do? Can we have that?
They've always been like 10 years behind Wisconsin.
Everywhere. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's been selling beer on Sundays. It doesn't matter if it's been sports gambling, which is still not a thing here. The marijuana, I don't care what side of the aisle you are on that one. They'll wait for 25 other states to do this. And then they'll say, well, I guess we'll start trying. And I feel like nothing moves quick in this state. The elk thing isn't going quick. Any of our other fishery stuff, not going quick. I'm getting tired of it.
Well, I won't excuse them for not having it ready to go when they had the target date. Because if they had a target date, they must have been working on this for a while.
You know what happens when people miss deadlines at work? They get fired.
Commissioner Stroman has said, we're not going to put it out now until everything is 100% ready to go.
And I get that.
I don't know what's the holdup? I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Another year to get this thing figured out. I don't understand.
And they hope to have it in the winter. Okay, sure. I guess we'll talk to you next fall.
Well, you know what we do have this winter? good ice in a lot of places and good fishing. We're going to find out more about what's going on up at Lake of the Woods with Joe Henry and Jason Groll when we come back. Now, this segment is brought to you by Tasman Lake Lodge, offering trophy lake trout and northern pike in northwest Saskatchewan. Find out more at tasmanlake.com. Sick of eating tag soup? It's time to own your odds this fall with OnX Hunt, the GPS hunting app trusted by millions of hunters. Now you'll have access to nationwide public and private land ownership information, waypoints, optimal wind for each stand, tracks, and much more. All at your fingertips. Go to onxmaps.com/hunt and use code SJR20 at checkout to receive 20% off your membership. That's code SJR20. Lake of the Woods is the walleye capital of the world. Plan your ice fishing trip today. We have over 60 lodging options with 30 full-service resorts featuring heated fish houses, ice transportation, meal plans, and sleeper house options. Fish from the famous Rainy River in the South Shore.
You never know what you're going to catch.
To the scenic Northwest Angle.
Here at the Northwest Angle.
Catch walleye, sauger, perch, sturgeon, eelpout, tullaby, northern pike, and more. Fish Minnesota's Lake of the Woods. Learn how at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. Time to head up to Lake of the Woods to check in with the one-armed bandit, Joe Henry from Lake of the Woods Tourism. Joe, how's it going?
Hey, listen, I can get more done with one arm, Brett, than you know what I'm going to say.
No, I don't, Joe.
Finish that story.
Why don't you tell us? It's a good thing. All you need is one arm to do some jigging up there, even if you're
well, I'll tell you what,
fishing with two rods.
Jigging is in full swing, as you probably know, up at the walleye capital. I mean, we've gotten fish houses out, and of course, whenever I speak, I don't speak for all the resorts because every area of the ice is different. But I'll tell you what, fish houses are out, and kind of excited to have a special guest on today. One of the guys that's leading the charge up there, Jason Groll with Wigwam Resort, and you know, a lot of the listeners probably know of Jason. Jason's really popular in social media, puts a lot of information out both in the winter, but as well as the open water season. Just a freaking fishing nut that's just dialed in up at Lake of the Woods.
Hey, Jason, how's it going?
It's going good out here on the lake.
Oh, you're out on the ice, right?
We both got all of our houses out.
Oh, really? How many houses you guys got out there?
We've got a total of 34 day houses, and we have some of our 6-mans on shore yet, but we got most of our 4-mans out here and ready to roll.
All right. So that means this, you know, and Joe, December 10 is usually when you say the average is for getting some houses out. So it looks like, Jason, looks like everybody's right on schedule.
Yeah, we had a real cold end of fall there. And the water temp was where it needed to be, so we just need a little bit more colder weather, and it went fast. A week we were driving out here.
Nice. So what's the snowpack like on?
Nice, good black ice. You know, it froze up before we got any snow. So the ice is the best, most solid ice I've seen in a few years for sure. We're sitting on anywhere from about the center stuff here under snow drifts and stuff, 9.5 inches. Otherwise, pretty much 10.5 to 12 inches even in a lot of it.
So that, I mean,
snowpack, we got.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Jason.
We got about 5 inches of snow yesterday with that system that moves through. We had a couple inches before that, so kind of blowing around. It's not really, about 3-4 inches, definitely enough for snowmobile travel out here. Sticking as far as that goes, and get around pretty good out here. This shallower ice up here from like 19 foot to shore to Pine Island's a little rougher, but now that it's getting covered in with snow, it's pretty easy going. A lot of years, this rougher stuff, you go to drill it and you have a hard time clearing your holes. We're not seeing that this year out in that 17 to 19 foot.
So really some perfect conditions.
That seems to be where the bite is.
Some perfect conditions to start the season then.
Yep.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you couldn't ask for better conditions.
So, Jason, you said the majority of the bites in 17 to 19 feet right now. Is that because that's how far you can get out, or is that because that's where the fish are? And I mean, I know you're finding them there, but
Well, sometimes, until this yesterday's snow, a lot of that 19 and deeper was clear ice, and this rougher stuff up shallower was holding the snow. So there was, all dark under this ice, bright under the clear stuff. So I think this dark stuff holds the bigger eyes in general anyway till you get a little snow cover. And it's early yet. I mean, we've been getting them in the river right on the first break and anywhere from 5 to 16 foot. They've been biting good too all fall in the river. We did try a guy out a little deeper in about 21, 22 when the bite slowed down up shallow, and it was pretty much one after another with the sauger action and then some nicer fish mixed in.
Are they pretty active? And is it a kind of a midday bite, or how are you catching fish?
It's been so far a really good morning bite. Depending on the day, like yesterday, the guys out there, they were biting all day long for the most part. But it's been more of a morning bite. Mostly from what I'm seeing so far is, we give out fat heads to our rentals. So most guys so far just using bobber, plain hook, and minnows in there. When I checked them guys yesterday, this is the earliest this group's ever been up here, and the best fishing they said they've ever had. And when I went and checked on them that first time at about 10 o'clock, they had two walleyes, nice ones, 17 to 19 inches above the holes, lines tangled, and they said they hadn't been able to get 2 lines in all morning yet per person. Wow. So, yeah, it's, yep.
Any of the guys jigging at all, or mostly bobbers?
Haven't heard a whole lot on jigging yet. We haven't had much people out here. We did have one portable guy out there I was talking to. He was using rattle wraps and doing really good. He moved from shallower. He started in like 16, and he was pretty close to the road too. We were making a lot of noise, but he jumped out to that 21 with a jigging wrap or with a ripping wrap, rattle wrap, and he said he caught 80 plus fish. So just since he moved out there.
Bret, I'll tell you something, that ripping wrap, as you know, and Jason, I'm a big fan of that ripping wrap. My thought on that ripping wrap is, not only do I catch a lot of fish in that ripping wrap, but if I'm not catching, if those fish are a little bit more neutral, I think that ripping wrap will pull a lot of fish just under the hollis, and then they might even slide over and grab that dead stick.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, a little attractant, a little get a little reaction bite, with the ripping wraps, and
calling them in.
Let me ask you this: you're one of the guys. I mean, you obviously when you ice guide, you're working with Wigwam Resort, and and I should preface too that the ice conditions that Jason speaks about, that's on the Wigwam Road. You don't want to take what Jason says and assume that's the same for all across the lake. That's Wigwam's Road he's speaking of. But Jason, you're one of the guys that gets out there right away. Like, you're one of the first guys marking the ice. What's that like when you first go out? I mean, are you using a snow machine? Are you using a spud bar and walking? How do you start out? Because you start out like you're one of the first ones out there.
Yeah, I try to be. Old Mr. Cook usually beats me out here. He's about the only one that ever beats me out here. Otherwise, it's usually when I get out here, I see John Cook and Brian Nye. We're usually the only ones out here. But I like to watch the ice right from the start. Right from the start. As soon as I get out there, a lot of times I'll walk the bay with a spud bar. And I learn our whole path, and just keep an eye on the thin spots and, just to keep track of everything. This year I was able to get out with John. He's got one of them Willcrafts. And we were already sitting at 4 inches when we went out in that. It was going so quick. So, but yeah, normally I just walk our path, and watch the ice. And as soon as I can get out there, we're out.
Well, and John Cook is with Twin River Resort, Bret, and And John is notorious for being one of the first, as is Brian Nye with Adrian's Resorts. And, all I would say to that is I would never, ever recommend anybody going out on the ice as early as these guys go out. Let these guys go out. They're the professionals. Let them start marking that trail where the best ice is. And that's one of the advantages of going to Lake of the Woods is that, when you go on a trail, these trails have been marked since the start of ice formation. And these guys know where the springs are. They know where the open water was. They know where the cracks have been. And that trail that they mark, it's there for a reason. And it's not always in the same spot every year. So I just say it's one of the great things about going to Lake of the Woods is that, hey, man, when you go on one of those trails, these guys are watching that trail on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're literally building a road kind of out here. So we get our paths marked. That's what we go with. And then we try to keep it clear of snow to keep building ice throughout the winter. And, that's why we always ask everyone to stick to the paths if they don't know where they're going, especially. And yeah, we just keep watching it and let out heavier as we go.
Yeah. How's the ice?
I was going to say, as far as good ice, I mean, this is some of the best. It's the fastest ice we've had in quite a while. Looks to be the best strong black clear ice. We didn't have any snowfall during the freeze up. And so, you're talking different resorts around the lake, different thicknesses. It opened up on Long Point before it was locked up. So you're going to have some thinner ice up off Long Point and probably around Rocky and them areas and Structure. Down here, for the most part, she froze over, and then we had that wind, and it split across the south end here. That's already sitting at the stuff that most of it came back together when the wind switched back to the north. But there's little chunks in between, that were open and froze up last. And they're already sitting at probably today. I haven't measured today, but that's probably at 9 inches already today. So on the south end here, I'm pretty confident. There's on the low end, we're at like 8, 9, enough for side by sides, but we're seeing a lot of 11, 12 inch ice already down here.
Have you had to deal much with heaves yet?
Not really. When it split out there a few days back, a week ago, I was worried about that, but it came back together and didn't really do much of anything. 2 days ago, we were looking out and it looked like off in the distance you could see some big heaves. So we're hoping that's more of a mirage that day, making them look higher in the sky, but I'm sure there's a big heave somewhere.
Jason, a lot of times that mirage, I think that mirage has to do with what ice angles are putting in their coffee in the morning.
Hey-o.
It could be. I think it's a lot of it, the pressure, high pressure, low pressure, and the switches and stuff. I believe high pressure, normally you get the mirages around the lake.
Jason, one of the things I really like talking about, because I think it's so nice, is that, if you're an experienced ice angler, man, it's fun coming up and stepping into a fish house that's been put on the fish. It's heated, holes are cleaned, it's ready to roll. I mean, I enjoy that. It's such a treat not having to set up on my own. I'm up filming or doing whatever I'm doing. But, at the same time, I think it's so neat that with a full service resort like Wigwam and many others up at Lake of the Woods, you can step into a fish house that's 70 degrees. It's on the fish. The holes are cleaned. You have rods and reels and stuff that people can use. If you're not an experienced ice angler, you can still come up and have a really good experience ice fishing on Lake of the Woods.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Experienced or veteran. One thing about Lake of the Woods, it's such a big beast. And, on the south end here, you got to cross 4 Mile Bay just to get to the lake. And then it's maybe another mile, depending on the year or time of season. But, you got another half mile to get out on the lake. So if it's blowing and snowing up here, it can be kind of a beast. Unlike, central Minnesota, you get to the landing, you buzz out, you're on your spot. A lot of guys come up here, with all their stuff if they're not in an enclosed like side by side, you're on the 4-wheeler, it can get pretty cold. So
The Tundra.
yeah, guys can just buzz up and literally hop in a warm trailer, get a ride out. We'll set y'all up if you don't have equipment. Yeah, it don't get any easier.
We talk about it a lot here. You know, everyone likes to do it on their own, right? Like, especially guys that ice fish a lot. But when you go to a place, maybe if you're driving 5-6 hours, get up at Lake of the Woods, it's just so nice to be able to take a road that's already maintained for you, or you know, not have to haul your fish house all the way up there and just jump in one of the houses up there and then come back into a warm restaurant, maybe the bar area, and enjoy the rest of the evening. It's a fun trip to do. And Jason, I know you guys are just kind of getting started up there. Do you got some openings if people want to come up and do some fishing?
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah. Yep. Give us a call at the Wigwam. We'll set you up. Yep.
Very good.
Jason, what can people expect to catch when they come up? I'm on the first ice now. When they come up there, what's going to be in the buckets when you clean and fish at the end of the day?
Walleye, sauger, we're seeing some perch. Haven't seen any northerns yet, but we usually get some northerns in the mix up here, shallowest. But anywhere we're in the fish, the northerns are going to be swimming around eating. Heel pout, sturgeon, just like the old saying on Lake of the Woods goes, you never know what you're going to hook into. Every once in a while, we hook in to a lake trout. A laker from the northeast side will get down here, so you just never know. And tell you what, boys, this is no fisherman's tale. There's some big walleyes swimming around in the Rainy and Lake of the Woods this fall. We had one on up to the boat, and it was a big walleye. It was one of the biggest walleyes I've ever seen. This fall, well, it's been good. I thought last summer was good all year out here, but this fall, the river was really good for walleye action. Some of the best I've seen ever at my house on the river. And I had a couple I caught 29, 28s and a bunch of, 20 to 25s just off my dock. And I had another big walleye, and I've caught a lot of walleyes. I know how they feel. There's some big walleyes swimming around in here. And that one we lost the other day, I've been telling people that's a new state record because we caught a 25-incher like 10 minutes after that one, and you literally could have fit 2-3 of them inside that fish.
Wow.
So
note to self.
You never know what you're going to hook into.
Fish Jason.
I'll tell you what, Jason Groll catches a lot of big walleyes. If Jason Groll is saying that he had a freaking pig on, it was a pig. And we always talk about that, Jason. Is there a state record walleye swim around the waters of Lake of the Woods? You think there is, hey?
I think there is now. I in the past, I seen during a tournament a 30, what was it? 34, 35, it was a big walleye, one of the biggest I seen, but it didn't have the girth, and I got a fat 32-incher right away this spring, first time out fishing this season. And you literally could have fit that fish inside of this fish. So now, I believe in beasts, and I believe there's state records swimming around in here after seeing that one the other day and a couple that I've lost for sure. So, and we got I believe we still have the new state record sturgeon. I think that's capable of being beat at any time out here.
What is that right now?
Red oil suckers. The walleye is what? Is it 17.5, 18.5, something like that? 17.5, 35 inches. I forget what the new sturge record was. I think it was it 80? 82?
Well, during that Sportsman's Lodge sturgeon tournament, they got one that was right there. And the question I don't know, because I haven't seen confirmation, is did they measure it properly to get the official specs? Because it was definitely a state record. It was big enough. Did they get the right measurements on it to appease the qualifications for the catch and release record? But it was a monster. Okay. And I think you're right, Jason. I think that the state record is between 17 and 18 pounds, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's a big walleye.
It's a big fish. It is, but like I said, that one we seen it literally looked, just like a chubby, big, fat, fake looking walleye. It was so big.
All right, Joe. So the one you're talking about was 78.25 inches. You think, which would have beat the 78 incher that Darren Troseth?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Gosh, those are big fish. I have no doubt that there's 80-inch sturgeon in there. There's some swim around and definitely some big walleyes. And I mean, how's that go, Dan? If you want to catch, if you want to catch a big fish,
think about it.
You have to go.
Where is it?
Go to the supermarket. No, that's all right. You have to go to.
You know darn well you know what it is.
If only there was a song that could remind me.
Hey,
something.
I always tell these boys, and it's almost like a Forrest Gump quote. I'm like, boys, what I tell my buddies when they ask about catching big walleyes? Go to a fishery that has a lot of big walleyes. So
it
when
just
Bret
makes
made
sense.
an AI song for his Sporting Journal Radio 500 fishing tournament every spring on the radio.
Oh, there it is.
Here we go.
I still have it.
I hear
listen to this opening line.
Here it comes.
You got her?
We got to get through the intro first.
Can we play it a little louder?
If you want to catch a big fish, you have to go where the big fish are.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Lake of the Woods and the Rainy River. So good.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, baby.
Can't wait.
Go big or go home.
5th annual SGR 500 coming up in April. 7 and 8 or something
I think
like that?
so. We got to get through winter first.
Yeah, but
we got a lot of winter before we're there.
It's not that far away, though.
No, I know. Thankfully.
Tuesday and Wednesday, April 7th and 8th. Is that April? Yeah, that's April.
Nailed it.
Riverbend Resort. Come join us. All the details at fishhuntforever.com. Jason, appreciate the time on the show. Joe, anything else you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I just say Jason. Jason's one of those guys. He's one of those behind-the-scenes heroes, like many of our ice guides are. I mean, this is a guy that's out there early marking. He's out there at dark 30 getting equipment started up. He's checking roads every single day. He's moving houses to keep them on the fish. One thing about our resort community is that they realize that, hey, listen, they don't take customers for granted. And when a customer comes up, they're going to do everything they possibly can to give these folks a good fishing experience. That means moving houses, following those walleyes, resetting a house so you get a nice clean set when you move into it. If there's extra houses, they move people around. They're checking on you throughout the day. They clean their fish at the end of the day for you so you can go to happy hour. The resorts will even cook up your fresh catch if you want, or you can get your fish clean to bring home. But they're the unsung heroes behind the scenes. When I reach out for information, these are the pros I'm reaching out to. I'm not on the water all the time, and you take a guy like a Jason Groll, and this is his life. He lives this stuff, and he has been. And what does Jason do when he's not guiding? He's out fishing himself, looking for a state record walleyes. So it's kind of fun to have a guy like Jason on the call, and we show a lot to these guys.
Yeah, that's great. It's
Our program revolves around the customer, keeping customers happy. If you're not catching fish, move them to a fresh house. That's what it's all about, or we wouldn't be out here. So.
For sure. All right. Well, be safe out there. Glad it's off to a great start. I'm excited. I think Dan and I are going to leave after the show and come up. I think I've just decided. I've made an executive decision, Dan.
I got a deer tag to fill. You're on your own.
I don't anymore.
I got some hunting to do before it's ice fishing season for Dan.
All right, guys. Joe, if people want to get a trip planned to Lake of the Woods to find more information, what should they do?
Hey, if ice fishing's on, get it before Christmas. Check out our website, and that is lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Thanks for listening to the Fish Hunt Forever show. Download the Fish Hunt Forever podcast wherever you get podcasts or watch on the Fish Hunt Forever YouTube channel. If you like today's show, please give us a 5-star review. Find past shows, articles, news about regulations, and more at fishhuntforever.com.